My name is, call me Sarah. I'm 41. We live in a suburban neighborhood in Miami, in a big white house with palm trees, glass balconies, and a heated pool. My husband, Jeremy, is a businessman. Money, yachts, vacations in Mexico, barbecues with politicians. He has a daughter from his first marriage, Amber. She's 22. She's studying at a university in Boston. That's where it all started. Or, more precisely, it all began when she came back for the summer. I remember that day in detail. The heat, glass doors with palm prints, the humidity hung in the air like a wet sheet. I was standing in the kitchen, making lemonade. Then I suddenly heard someone entering the door with a code. Beep, 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 click. And she walked into the house. She was wearing a tiny skirt and a see-through top, and you could make out her nipples underneath. I froze. She rushed in, barefoot, her hair bleached by the sun, her nails a glossy red like strawberries. "Sarah," she shouted, running up to me. She hugged me, and I smelled vanilla and tobacco on her. It all felt normal, completely normal. She's my husband's daughter. We're friends. I'm her stepmom. But when she ran her hand across my waist, just a bit longer than necessary, I felt my knees tremble. "You've lost weight," she said, smiling. "You look gorgeous." "Nonsense," I replied. "Dad said you look amazing, but he always downplays it. You're a total MILF." She laughed. I did too, but my heart was pounding in my temples. That summer, Jeremy was hardly home. Work, conferences, meetings, sometimes gone for up to 5 days. Amber and I were alone together. She'd lie by the pool, reading novels, listening to music. I'd iron, cook, clean. One time, she came up behind me while I was vacuuming and hugged me around the waist. Just like that. "You're so cozy," she whispered. "I just want to lie with you and do nothing." I laughed, but I couldn't get it out of my head all day.
Things got really weird in July. I found her underwear on the couch, red panties with black lace. I asked, "Did you leave this here by accident?" She smiled. "Are you jealous? Or do you just want to imagine me in them?" I didn't know what to say. Then she leaned in, took the underwear, and whispered, "I know how you look at me, Mommy." That night, I couldn't sleep. I looked at her Instagram, pictures in a bikini, selfies with a cigarette, dancing on the beach, a tattoo on her thigh. I felt my stomach tighten. I touched myself, and imagined her saying again, "Mommy."
That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bed, feeling my mind burning. The whole situation with Amber wouldn't leave my head. Every movement she made, every glance, every word. I knew I had to stop thinking about it. I'm married, I have a husband, a family, stability. But, for some reason, the more I tried to convince myself of that, the more I was drawn to her. She was on the edge of childhood and adulthood, and I felt like it wasn't accidental. She knew what she was doing. I could see it in her eyes. When Amber came back to the house a few days later, I decided to keep my distance. But when she noticed I was being cold, she suddenly changed. Her voice had a desperate tone, like she felt my withdrawal. She waited until we were alone, and quietly approached me. "Mom, I need to talk," she said, with a particular sense of urgency. She took a step closer, and I smelled vanilla and leather. Her scent immediately unsettled me. "You're acting kind of strange," I said, but I couldn't look into her eyes. They were magnetic. She sat next to me, then unexpectedly placed her hand on mine. Gently, softly, as if she didn't want to scare me. But I felt electricity run from her fingers through my body. "I know you want this, Sarah. You want me. You want us. I see it." I had trouble breathing. I pulled my hand away, but she didn't back off. She took a step closer and kissed me on the cheek. That kiss, the one that seems innocent, but in reality, destroys everything. "Can't." I started, but her lips were next to mine again. She whispered in my ear, "Why not try? You want this. I know how hard it is with him, but I'll be with you if you let me." It felt like anesthesia. I lost all ability to think. She started kissing me, first softly, then more urgently. I couldn't stop.
In that moment, everything I knew disappeared. Thoughts, feelings, even reality. I didn't feel any boundaries. After we stopped, I realized I couldn't go back. My heart was on fire, and my mind was in a fog. Amber lay next to me, breathing peacefully. I felt her body still pulsing next to mine. "That was amazing," she said with a light smile. I couldn't respond. Inside, everything screamed that this was wrong. But at the same time, I couldn't shake the feeling that I couldn't live without her. We looked at each other like two mirrors reflecting anxiety and desire. The next morning, I was ashamed, but I couldn't stop myself. Every movement she made in the house drew me in. Her laugh, her gaze, her gestures, all felt like a full-on provocation. I tried to make myself think about something else, about my husband, about the stability of our life. But Amber wouldn't let me forget. She started coming to my room more often, almost by accident, but her presence was always persistent. She still called me Mommy. That word was becoming my curse. My fears became more real with each passing day. I knew this couldn't continue, but the more I tried to run, the stronger she pulled me back. With each day, I felt like I was losing control. At first, I thought I could push her away, but all I did was become part of the madness Amber and I had begun to create. Tomorrow will be a new day. I still don't know what will happen next, but I know one thing for sure. I can't go back to my old life. She's made me dependent, and I'm not sure I want to fight it.
That evening turned out nothing like I imagined. After she left me in bed, I got up to clear my head. I felt the tension building in my body, like some force was pulling me back. But the more I tried to distance myself from the situation, the deeper I felt myself sinking into it. We both knew what had happened. Amber didn't speak about it, but her eyes said it all. I thought I could push that moment out of my mind, but she wouldn't let go. She was always nearby. The next morning, I woke up to find Amber already sitting in the kitchen, drinking coffee. She looked calm. I noticed her gaze wasn't the same as before. Not naive, not playful. It was the look of a girl who had become a woman. A woman who knows how to manipulate. "Did you sleep well?" she asked as I entered. "Yes," I answered, feeling my stomach tighten. "I did too," she said. Her voice so soft I couldn't tell where her sweetness ended and something darker began. I sat down next to her, trying to stay composed on the outside, but inside, everything was falling apart. That evening, Jeremy came home. I was happy to see him, but deep down, fear gnawed at me. He didn't know anything. Amber hadn't said a word either, but I felt like everything was on the edge. On the surface, things seemed normal, but the lie I was hiding was eating me alive. We sat at dinner, and I hoped everything would return to normal. Jeremy talked about his business trip. We discussed the weather and weekend plans. But that was all surface level. Inside, there was a real battle raging. When Jeremy and I went to bed, I felt the pull toward Amber again. I couldn't stay in this reality with him like before. I couldn't focus on him. Her words, her touches spun in my head. I couldn't stop seeing her body, her face, the way she called me Mommy.
That night, I didn't sleep, and the fight inside me began all over again. I lay there, feeling my hands ache for her, like they couldn't resist her touch. I wanted her again. I felt her calling to me, and I couldn't stop it. The next morning, Amber came into my bedroom. She knocked softly, and when I opened the door, her face was so close it was hard to breathe. "I need to talk," she said, and I felt her words slipping past my defenses. I thought I should push her away, say it was a mistake. But when she looked at me again, with those eyes that held no fear or doubt, I knew I couldn't. Amber stepped closer, and in her eyes I saw everything I didn't want to admit. She was ready for more, and so was I. But there was no going back. I was already caught in this hell. "Sarah, you know I can't be with anyone else. Not like I am with you. You're mine," she said, her voice confident and warm. "I'll always be with you." I felt her arms wrap around me, and everything inside me screamed. I knew I couldn't stop anymore. We were too close. I couldn't run from her. In the following days, I tried to keep it all in, but no matter how hard I fought, I was drawn to her. There were no rules in this game, and I couldn't find a way out. I wanted to believe it was temporary, that I could stop, but deep down I knew, I was lost in this madness. One evening, while Jeremy was out at a meeting, I was alone with Amber. We were sitting in the living room, and she walked up to me. Our eyes met. It was all clear. She wasn't hiding anything. "Do you want me to be yours?" she asked, and I felt her words pierce me to the core.
That night, when I returned home after a long day, I realized I couldn't keep living like before. No matter what I did, Amber stayed in my head, her face, her body, her touch. All of it had become a part of me, and I couldn't shake it off. As soon as I stepped into the house, she appeared in the doorway. "You're back," she said, and her voice was so soft it made it hard to breathe. She stood so close I could smell her, feel her warmth, and I wanted to close my eyes. "You do understand that nothing normal can ever exist between us," I said, trying to summon the strength to speak. "We can't keep doing this." She looked at me with a faint smile, but there was no fear in her eyes, no doubt. She was confident, and her confidence infected me. "Why do you think what we have is abnormal?" Her eyes sparkled. "You want this too, Sarah. You want me just as much as I want you." Her words sent a chill down my spine. My head was spinning. I knew it was wrong, but the more I tried to turn away, the stronger the pull became. She stepped closer, and I could no longer run. I was locked in this hell, and the only way out was to keep going. "Let's not lie to ourselves," she whispered, leaning into me. "You can't leave me. We're meant for this. You'll be mine, and I'll be yours." With every word, I lost control, and instead of pushing her away, I let myself give in. She didn't wait for permission. Her hands found my body immediately, and I couldn't resist anymore. We ended up in her room, and with every touch she gave me, all my internal barriers vanished. It was like a drug. I couldn't stop. I didn't want to. Over the next few days, I tried to run away. I tried to control the situation, but all I managed to do was fall back into her arms again and again. My life, my husband, my principles, none of it mattered anymore. I could no longer believe in my own morality. Jeremy kept traveling for work. He was happy I didn't interfere with his business, but I couldn't escape from what was happening between me and his daughter. One day, when he returned home late at night, I sensed something strange in the air. He knew something. He looked at me differently. I tried not to show my nerves, but I saw the question in his eyes. "Are you afraid of something, Sarah?" he asked, and there was unease in his voice. I couldn't answer. I knew he couldn't possibly know, but something in his intuition told him something was wrong. I pretended everything was fine. We talked a bit about work, about an upcoming meeting, but my thoughts were elsewhere. I couldn't focus. The moment Jeremy went into the shower, I heard Amber's footsteps again. She approached me and sat beside me. "You're scared, aren't you?" she said, and her voice was gentle but carried the hint that she understood everything. "We can't go on like this, Amber," I said, tension in my voice. "I can't live like this. I can't destroy my life, my family." But she didn't back down. "You want me, Sarah, and I want you. We have to be together, otherwise none of this makes sense." She touched my face, and I felt myself losing control again. Everything inside me screamed no, but my body no longer listened. I wanted her. I craved her. She was my only desire.
With each passing day, it became more dangerous. I couldn't hide. Everything around me felt foreign and strange. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened between Amber and me, and each of her looks, each word, each touch only deepened my addiction. I felt myself sinking deeper into this terrible vortex. I couldn't get out. I couldn't go back. Jeremy and I continued living under the same roof, and I kept wearing a mask. But every morning I woke up thinking that I could no longer be myself. I don't know what will happen next, but I'm no longer sure I want to choose between this and my family. I admitted to myself, I don't know how this will end. All I know is that I can't stop anymore.
Day by day, fear consumed me more and more. Everything became clearer. I was on the edge. Amber had become more than just a temptation. She was a part of me, a part of my soul. I couldn't go back to the life I had before, and every moment with her felt more and more inevitable. Every morning when I woke up, I tried to find an excuse. This was a mistake. This wasn't supposed to happen. I was a strong woman. I had a family, a husband. I was normal, not some crazy woman overtaken by forbidden desires. But I knew I couldn't stop anymore. Amber was leading me into this abyss, and with every glance, Every touch, I was losing my last chance to return. Jeremy was home more often, and I began to feel how his presence affected the fragile balance of my life. I knew he noticed changes in my behavior, but I pretended everything was fine. I played my role, hiding what was happening between me and his daughter. But one evening changed everything. Jeremy came home later than usual again. I was sitting in the living room and Amber was in her room. I heard him talking on the phone in the hallway, and his voice sounded tense. He was more anxious than I'd ever seen him. I felt something was wrong, but I couldn't understand what. When he entered the living room, he looked different. His gaze was suspicious, heavy. He stood in front of me, and I felt everything inside me tighten.
"Sarah, are you hiding something from me?" he asked, his voice filled with despair. I froze. I tried to find words, but none came. There was a question in Jeremy's eyes, as if he already knew. I couldn't lie, but I also couldn't tell the truth. "You've been acting strange," he continued, stepping closer. "I've noticed how much you've changed, and I can't stay silent anymore. You and Amber, what's going on between you two? I see how close you've become." That moment, I realized he knew. I don't know how he figured it out, but I couldn't hide my dependence on Amber any longer. Everything was falling apart right in front of me. "It's not what you think," I said, trying to defend myself, but my words grew weaker with each second. He rushed toward me, grabbed me by the shoulders like he wanted to shake the truth out of me. I felt his strength, but in his eyes, I saw more than just anger. I saw pain. He was devastated, broken. "You're cheating on me? With my daughter?" His voice cracked with shock. I felt my heart collapse. My world felt shattered, but I couldn't stop. I knew it wasn't what he wanted to hear, but I couldn't hide anymore. "I can't explain it," I said. "It's more complicated than you think. I can't stop. I can't escape this, Jeremy. I'm cheating on you, and I don't know how to fight it." That moment when he realized the full truth, he backed away, like I'd struck him. His face went pale, and he took a step back. You're insane, Sarah. You don't even know what you're doing. You're destroying everything," he shouted. I was terrified, but at that point, I knew I couldn't undo it. It was too late.
After that night, everything changed between us. We stopped talking. He avoided me. I felt guilty, but at the same time, I couldn't stop thinking about what was happening between Amber and me. We kept living under the same roof, but everything was behind a mask. This wasn't a normal life anymore. I could no longer pretend. Jeremy knew. He could no longer deny the obvious. He tried to threaten me, accuse me, but I couldn't change what had already happened. Amber had changed too. She became even more confident. She knew I wouldn't let her go. We continued meeting secretly, and every time we were alone together, I felt everything inside me tighten, but at the same time, I felt the passion overwhelm me completely. I don't know what's going to happen next. I can't stop anymore. This is more than just an affair. This is my addiction. Amber made me hers, and I no longer know how to get out of this hell.
I kept lying to myself, telling myself I could stop, that it wasn't too late, that I could go back to my normal life. But with every passing day, Amber's presence became more and more overwhelming. I couldn't escape her. She was everywhere, in every thought, every desire, every dream. One afternoon, I sat alone in the living room, feeling completely empty. My mind kept racing. The lies, the guilt, the shame, it all consumed me. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror without feeling disgusted. I had betrayed everything I had ever believed in. Amber came into the room, her steps soft and quiet. She didn't need to say anything, just her presence was enough. She sat beside me, and I couldn't move away. Her hand found mine, and without a word, she pulled me closer. "Don't fight it," she whispered, her voice low and soothing. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of everything I had lost. I was drowning, and she was the one pulling me under. "I never wanted this," I muttered, barely able to speak. Amber's grip tightened, and she leaned in, her lips brushing against my ear. "You're not the one in control anymore. You never were." I should have stopped. I should have pushed her away, but I couldn't. I didn't want to. I was already too far gone.
The days blurred together. I couldn't separate reality from the chaos I was living in. Amber's touch, her voice, her presence, it was all-consuming. I no longer recognized the person I saw in the mirror. The strong, independent woman who once had it all together had vanished. In her place was someone desperate, lost, trapped. Even when I tried to pretend everything was fine, I felt the weight of my actions suffocating me. I couldn't escape it. Amber had become the center of my world. And the more I tried to resist, the more I realized I was losing myself. Doubt gnawed at me, but I ignored it. I couldn't stop. Every time I tried to break free, something inside me pulled me back to her. I was addicted to the passion, the forbidden thrill of it all. One evening, as I sat on the couch, trying to focus on the mundane task of flipping through a magazine, I could feel Amber's eyes on me. She didn't have to say a word. I knew what she wanted. Her gaze alone spoke volumes. "Come here," she said softly, her voice coaxing, gentle, yet filled with an undeniable command. I hesitated, but only for a moment. My body betrayed me, standing up and moving toward her, almost involuntarily. She smiled when I sat beside her, her hand once again finding mine. "We're in this together," she whispered, brushing her lips against mine. And in that moment, I let go of the last bit of resistance. I knew it was wrong, that it was a mistake, but it felt so right. And I couldn't stop. The days after that night were a blur of stolen moments and guilty pleasures. Every time I was near Amber, I felt the pull of something darker, something deeper. We were careful, always careful, when we were around others. But the tension between us was palpable. I couldn't escape it, and neither could she. It was like we were in a separate world where no one else could see the truth. The guilt weighed heavily on me, but it was buried beneath the thrill. Every kiss, every touch, every whispered word between us pushed me further into this spiral. I didn't know how to stop, even though I knew it was destroying everything I had worked for. I couldn't think about anything else. Amber had consumed me in ways I hadn't anticipated, and now there was no going back. Then, one night, after dinner with Jeremy, I found myself standing at the door of Amber's room, my hand hovering over the knob. I knew what would happen if I walked in, but I couldn't stop. I needed her. My breath was shallow, my heart racing as I slowly turned the handle. She was sitting on her bed, looking at me with that knowing gaze, the one that sent chills down my spine every time. She didn't say anything, just patted the space beside her. I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. Without a word, she stood up and walked over to me, her hands finding the back of my neck, pulling me toward her. Her lips brushed mine, soft at first, and then harder, demanding. I was lost in the kiss, in her touch, in the way she made me forget everything else.
"Why do we keep doing this?" I whispered, breaking away for just a moment. "Because you want to," she replied, her voice low and steady. "And I want you." I closed my eyes, my mind spinning with the weight of her words. But it didn't matter. Nothing mattered anymore except the pull she had on me. My body moved on its own accord, following the path she had set for me. We didn't talk after that. There was no need to. We both knew what this was, and in some twisted way, it felt like we were both trapped in it.
The days blurred into each other, each one feeling like a repetition of the last. The weight of the secret we were carrying was unbearable, yet it also fueled something within me, something I couldn't quite define. Amber was everywhere, her presence in the house, the stolen glances, the quiet moments between us. It felt as if we were the only two people who understood what was really happening. Jeremy had grown more distant, his work consuming him in ways that made him oblivious to the tension building between us. But I saw it in his eyes, the suspicion, the uncertainty. He was asking questions now, subtle ones, but I could see through the veneer of casualness. He knew something was off, even if he couldn't put his finger on it. One evening, after yet another quiet dinner where we all pretended nothing had changed, I found myself alone in the living room with Amber. She sat beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat of her body against mine. Her hand brushed mine, and I couldn't suppress the shiver that ran through me. "You're thinking about him again, aren't you?" Amber's voice was soft, almost teasing, but there was an edge to it. I turned to face her, my heart pounding in my chest. I can't help it. This is wrong, Amber. She tilted her head, studying me with those piercing eyes that saw through every excuse I tried to tell myself. Is it really? She asked, her tone dripping with quiet confidence. What's wrong about wanting to be with me? I'm married, I whispered, even though I knew the words had lost their power long ago. Are you? Amber's smile was almost playful, as if she was enjoying watching me unravel. Tell me, Sarah, if you weren't married, would you still want this? Would you still want me? The question hit me like a punch to the gut. I had no answer. The truth was, I couldn't imagine my life without her anymore. And that scared me more than anything. I don't know, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Amber's hand slid into mine, her touch sending sparks through my skin. She leaned in closer, her lips just a breath away from mine. Then stop pretending, she murmured, her lips finally capturing mine in a kiss that was both soft and demanding. And for that moment, everything else, the guilt, the fear, the lies, disappeared. There was nothing but her, nothing but the way she made me feel like I was the only person in the world. After that evening with Jeremy, it felt as though the world was falling apart. He no longer looked at me the way he used to. His eyes were filled not just with pain, but with desperation. I realized I couldn't go back. Even if I wanted to, it was impossible now. Everything around me felt alien. I walked through the house in a daze, not wanting to face Jeremy. But Amber, she was still there, and her gaze, her touches, had become even more insistent. Every time we met, I felt like she was consuming me. It was like a drug. I couldn't stop. And I could no longer hide that all my thoughts were consumed by her. One evening, while I was preparing dinner, Amber approached me again. She stood in the kitchen doorway, watching me like a predator preparing to strike. How are you, Sarah? She asked, her voice unexpectedly calm, even playful. But I could see the fire in her eyes. Not the way I used to be, I replied, trying to remain composed, but my voice betrayed me, carrying a nervous edge. I knew I couldn't hide it anymore. Amber took a step toward me, and I felt her warm breath on my skin. You know I won't let you go. You'll be mine, Sarah. You're already mine. Her words pierced me like needles, and I couldn't suppress my reaction. I felt my hands trembling, my heart pounding wildly. I tried to step back, but Amber was too close. There was no doubt in her eyes that she wasn't going to let me go. Amber, we can't keep doing this. I tried to speak calmly, but my words felt like I was just talking to myself. Don't you understand? This is going to ruin my life. You already ruined your life. She took another step closer, and her lips almost touched my ear. You've already chosen, Sarah. You want me. You'll be with me, and nothing will tear us apart.
I felt my strength leaving me. I tried to resist, but I couldn't. Amber wrapped her arms around me, and I couldn't fight anymore. Everything inside me screamed no, but my mind and body were already in her control. The next day, Jeremy tried again to talk to me. He was more determined than ever. He felt that something was off, but he couldn't figure out what exactly. He knew I wasn't with him anymore, but I couldn't tell him the truth. Sarah, do you even realize what you're doing? He asked, almost in despair. His voice was subdued, but there was an underlying intensity. This isn't just about our marriage. We have a family, we've built something together, and now you're betraying me, with my daughter. With Amber. His words hit me like a hammer, piercing through the last remnants of my conscience. I couldn't look him in the eyes. I felt myself losing control. You don't understand, Jeremy, I whispered. I can't stop. This isn't just cheating. It's something bigger. He was furious. His face went pale, and he stepped back, as if a knife had been driven into him. You've just broken me, Sarah. That's it. It's over. He turned and walked out. I stood there in the empty room, feeling the world crumbling around me. Everything I had once known, everything I had thought was important, now seemed meaningless. But Amber was still there, and she wasn't letting me go. Her confidence was relentless. I couldn't be with Jeremy, I couldn't be with myself. I was already hers. I belonged to her, and no one else. Amber came to me that evening as I sat on the couch, completely broken. "You know now you're mine," she said softly, but her words felt like a verdict. "You can't go back anymore, you've chosen me."
I couldn't answer. All I could do was feel how she enveloped me once again. I didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was clear. I was hers. A few days passed, and I continued to live in this nightmare. Every moment with Jeremy became more unbearable. I felt him tearing apart inside, unable to ignore the truth any longer. He began distancing himself from me. I couldn't hide anymore. Soon, I realized that nothing I had done could be justified. I had destroyed my family. I had destroyed my husband, and I could no longer fix it, but I couldn't leave Amber. I couldn't break this connection. The next day, I packed all my things and left the house. Jeremy didn't say a word. He just stood there, watching me go. Amber was waiting for me around the corner. We got into the car, and I felt my whole life turning upside down. I no longer knew who I was or what would come next. All I knew was that I couldn't go back anymore. I had crossed a line, burned bridges I could never rebuild. As we drove through the city, everything outside the window seemed foreign and distant. I wasn't part of that world anymore, the world of dinner parties, shared mornings, promises whispered in the dark. I had left it all behind. For her. Amber didn't say much. She didn't have to. Her presence was enough, commanding, familiar, inevitable. She reached for my hand as we drove, and I let her take it, too exhausted to resist, too broken to question. When we arrived at her apartment, I felt a strange mix of guilt and relief. The place that once felt forbidden now felt like the only place I belonged. She led me inside, and I followed as if in a dream. That night, I lay in her bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Amber slept beside me, peaceful and serene, as if nothing had ever been wrong. But inside me, a storm raged. I had chosen this, not by logic or conviction, but by the sheer force of desire, of something dark and unexplainable that lived inside me now. In the silence, I wondered if I had lost everything, or finally found something real. Morning came too fast. I woke up in an unfamiliar place, my mind foggy and my chest hollow. Amber was still asleep, her face peaceful, almost serene. And me? I felt completely empty, not with regret, more like I couldn't even define what I was feeling anymore. I stepped out onto the balcony with a cup of coffee, watching the city wake up. Cars, people, phones ringing, normal life kept going, while mine felt like it had detached from reality entirely. I betrayed my husband. I destroyed my family. All for this feeling, this obsession. For Amber, she came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist, resting her head against my back. "Good morning," she whispered, and chills ran down my spine. I didn't respond. I had no words. She was pulling me back into a world where it was just us and nothing else mattered. The next few days blurred together. We barely left the apartment. Her touch, her skin, her scent. This became my new normal. She controlled me, and I let her. I wanted her to. Sometimes I thought about Jeremy. I imagined him sitting in that empty house, broken, lost, and it hurt, but not enough to go back, not enough to change anything. One night, I woke up in a panic. I had dreamed that I was standing in front of Jeremy again, and he was looking at me with pure disgust. His eyes were filled with pain. I woke up crying, gasping for air. Amber turned on the light and came over immediately. "You dreamed about him again?" she asked softly. I nodded. "It still hurts," I confessed. "Because you haven't let go," she said. "But you have to. He's your past. I'm your present." And with those words, she pulled me back under. After that night with Jeremy, I felt like the world was crumbling around me. He no longer looked at me the way he used to. His eyes held not only pain, but also despair. I knew I couldn't take any of it back. Even if I wanted to, it was already too late. Everything around me felt foreign. I walked through the house as if in a trance, avoiding Jeremy at all costs. But Amber, she was still there. Her gaze, her touch, they became even more insistent. Every time we were together, I felt myself being consumed by her. It was like a drug. I couldn't stop. And I could no longer hide that she was the only thing occupying my thoughts. One day, While I was cooking dinner, Amber came up to me again. She stood in the kitchen doorway, watching me like a predator ready to strike. "How are you, Sarah?" she asked, her voice surprisingly calm, almost playful. But her eyes were burning. "Not like I used to be," I replied, trying to keep my composure, but my voice trembled. I knew I couldn't keep this hidden anymore. Amber stepped closer, and I felt her warm breath against my skin. "You know I'm not going to let you go. You're mine, Sarah. You already belong to me," she whispered, and her words pierced me like needles. My hands were shaking, my heart pounding. I tried to pull away, but Amber was too close. There wasn't even a trace of doubt in her eyes. She would never let me go. "Amber, we can't keep doing this." I tried to speak calmly, but the words came out as if I was trying to convince myself. "You realize this is going to destroy my life." "You already destroyed your life," she said, stepping closer, her lips nearly brushing my ear. "You've made your choice, Sarah. You want me. You'll be with me, and nothing can separate us." I felt all my strength leave me. I wanted to stop, but I couldn't. Amber wrapped her arms around me, and I couldn't resist anymore. Everything inside me screamed no, but my mind and body were already hers. When I stood in the middle of the empty kitchen with trembling hands, the house was already silent. Tom had vanished with the slam of the door. Amber, with that eerie calm, like she had planned it all and got exactly what she wanted. And me. I remained. I stood among the wreckage of my life. A chair knocked over in the rush. A plate shattered on the tile, like a symbol that nothing could ever be put back together again. My reflection in the dark window glass looked like a stranger. I didn't recognize the woman staring back. I had just lost my husband, betrayed myself, and allowed a 19-year-old girl, his daughter, to tear apart my identity from the inside. But in that silence, in that collapse, I felt something for the first time: freedom. Not the sweet, cinematic kind where you walk barefoot on a beach to the sound of guitar music. This was different. Raw, painful, terrifying. The kind that arrives when there's nothing left and only one choice remains: live or give up. I closed all doors, literally, and in my mind, I changed my number, deleted all my accounts, moved to the West Coast, took a new last name, became just Sarah. No status, no husband, no Amber, only me. And here's the strange thing. Every time I looked at other women, I caught myself wondering how many of them wear a mask like I did. How many lie to themselves every day, saying everything's fine, that their desires don't exist, that no one hears them. I often thought about her, not with hate, with curiosity. How did I fall into her game so easily? How did she see right through me? Or maybe she was just a mirror?
But I'm no longer the one who trembled, afraid to call things by their name. I survived. I'm not a saint, but I'm real, and I will never again let myself disappear into someone else, be it a man, a girl with a predator's eyes, or the ghost of my past. I don't hide anymore. I'm not proud of what I did, but I'm not ashamed either. I went through myself, and came out alive. And now, when someone asks, "So, what did you take from all of it?" I answer, I chose myself, and I'll never betray that choice again.